Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Study of X, the X-Men podcast where we chronologically go through the Krakoa era of X-Men. This week we are covering issue 6 of House of X and issue 6 of Powers of X to finish off the set of minis. My name is Tim, and with me as always is Chris and Sergio.
Hi.
Hello again.
It's been a while. We haven't actually recorded in like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
It's been a while with the holidays.
Yeah, it took a bit of a break for Christmas and New Year's, and now we have forgotten how to podcast. So,
Yes, this is very true.
bear with us.
Yeah, and you won't notice it because we have the power of scheduling episodes in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it'll be like we've only been gone for 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
Or altogether.
But in reality, we have no idea what we're doing anymore. So...
It's
I
true.
read these issues so long ago. I barely remember what happens in them. I'm going to rediscover them as we go through them.
Yeah, exciting stuff.
Funny enough, I don't know where I was when I read these when they first came out, but when I had to reread them for this podcast, I'm like, when did this happen? There were some answers in here that I completely forgot about and thought they were still mysteries.
Yeah, things sure are happening. That's what I know for sure.
Yep. We'll talk about it as we're going through, but want to start going through House of X?
Yeah, so for House of X number 6, I Am Not Ashamed. It's written by Jonathan Hickman, released originally in October of 2019. We open up here about a month ago on Krakoa. We're in Moira's no space, which looks to be on the underside of the island. And we have Xavier.
I love how this is upside down.
I do too. It's very cool. We also get a really neat kind of half above water, half underwater shot of Krakoa. And I do always forget that Krakoa can move around and is not actually tethered to the earth. So it's just kind of floating.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a carcass on like the underside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got a bunch of like tendrils and roots and everything kind of underneath it.
Yeah.
But we see Xavier, Magneto, and Moira here in her no place, discussing their blind leap of faith into the project that they've been working on for so long.
Yeah, we finally get to see Moira in this timeline, in this current Krakoa one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, after her being in all of the others that we've seen, we finally see her here. And so far, she's silent. All she says is that she agrees with the plan that they're doing, and she's happy to stand in the background.
So what do you think she's been doing here? Just hanging out in this bubble? It looks small.
Probably.
I
would assume she's just hanging out, having probably not the best time. It doesn't look very comfortable. It's very almost like a lab.
Yeah, you can kind of see some like Super Metroid style tubes that connects to presumably some other part of the facility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hopefully she's got some like books stacked somewhere.
Yeah,
because it's been a while since we last saw her.
She has watched Andor about 5 times at this point.
Well, time well spent.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, after her thousands of years of life, that's the one thing she always goes back to is Andor.
Yeah, just keeps watching TV. Yeah, so Magneto is saying to Charles here, whatever there is between us over the years, we're done with it. We're not going to be fighting anymore. Weirdly, I believe this from Magneto more if it was Xavier saying it to him in reverse.
100%. Like, Magneto doesn't tend to lie. He's usually very blunt, at least so far. Whereas Xavier, I can see him saying this and totally lying his ass off.
Yeah, I don't know. Xavier going through this run again, he seems to be the more sinister of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But
especially how I do appreciate how in this series of panels, like you only see him from the back. You don't really see his front like you do with Magneto or Moira.
I like that as well. It's something that keeps popping up with both of their helmets, but both Xavier and Magneto typically don't remove their helmets much anymore, and it gives a different vibe to both of them when they do it.
Also, this like slight smirk you get from the shot of like Xavier's back is pretty good as well.
Uh huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as Magneto places his hand on his shoulder.
Like, hey, you know what? We're friends now. We got this. And he just smiles and gets to his plan.
Yeah, which is getting on the planet intercoms, I guess.
As he's able to do easily. So Xavier puts on Cerebro and broadcasts a message to every human being on the planet, letting them know that things are about to change. He essentially tells everybody that the new Krakoan drugs are about to be introduced, that they are going to cure things such as influenza, Alzheimer's, many cancers just gone from them. And he says that they've made this for man not out of kindness, but because they want something in return. And in return, they're asking to be recognized as a nation of Krakoa and to allow all mutants amnesty in order to return to their new home. And as he's giving this speech, we see different kind of slices of people from around the planet. Most of them are heroes of some kind from the Marvel Universe. We have Iron Man, we have the Fantastic Four, Doctor Strange, but there's also some normal, everyday people. There's some folks in a hospital, in a board meeting, it looks like. And it's just a good couple of pages of Xavier explaining what they're about to do.
This is Hickman's elevator pitch to Marvel when pitching this series.
Yeah,
Oh, 100%.
like this is what's going to happen. My favorite one is he makes two demands. The first here is they have to accept the nation of Krakoa, and they're going to go through the UN's usual process of when a country is accepted into the UN, but they expect to be recognized at the end of it. So, are you really doing that
Mm-hmm.
in that case? Like,
Yeah, is
Yeah, it's
this
all
really a...
theatrics.
It's a three, yeah, it's theatrics. They know that they're gonna get it, and this is just more them telling you that they're gonna do it.
Uh huh.
I will say,
One of the
oh, go ahead,
one of the
Sergio.
bits I find really funny here, um, the very last one is Moira looking determined, and I cannot help but remember on I don't remember what issue it was. The last time we saw Moira looking like this was as a baby in the womb.
oh,
That was really
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Oh
This is
yeah,
exactly the same look she had back then in the womb.
yep. That look carries throughout all of her lives, regardless of her age. I will say some of my favorites of this monologue that he gives is the change that he has, because Xavier traditionally is a very positive guy. He's always about humans and mutants loving each other. It's therefore mutants should help humans even though humans don't like them. But this is a very dramatic departure from that, especially when he mentions that his original dream of harmony was a complete lie, and that he has done this because even though he wants to save them, time and time again, humanity has just sat by and watched as millions of their children are killed. So instead, there's going to be no gift of the medicine because they haven't earned it this time. And some of...
Yeah, and he's clearly positioning himself in an antagonistic role, and the series is also positioning him as such by showing the like Avengers and the Fantastic Four and Doctor Strange in those first panels.
Mm-hmm,
Like he's definitely like positioning himself in opposition to them.
I would say with the opposition angle, do you think he's not justified for it?
No, I think he is. Or rather, I can see why he thinks he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And Tim, what about you?
I very much do understand why he would be in opposition to this, or why he would be taking this kind of attitude. The other people we get here, it's not just the heroes either. We also get some shots of Orcus and Karima specifically um, during all this as well,
Yes.
right before the Magneto and determined Moira panel, or yeah, panel. But I want to talk about the second proposal he has here about the all mutants by birth can claim Krakoan citizenship. Uh, so he says this and also kind of throws in the amnesty thing as well for those who have been singled out as criminals or punished or imprisoned by humans can overcome man's bias against mutants, and pretty much what he says is now the mutants are going to judge mutants. So can mutant prisoners just leave now, or do they still have to stay in prison?
The implication is that they should all be released from prison, like, immediately.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm
that's my take as
also
well.
I'm also guessing the expectation is they go to Krakoa. Like you
Yes.
can't just be
Yes,
released and stay there.
right.
Yeah, that would be my read of it as well. Whether people actually do it or not is unclear. I mean, we saw with an earlier issue with Sabertooth where they had to go in and basically tell them to let him go, but I don't know if they're going to do that with every single mutant in jail or a few.
My take is they do. Like, they get everything here. We already saw, I think it was last issue, when the vote takes place and they are recognized as a nation by most other countries. My read there is they get everything they want, and that would include bringing in all of the prisoners. I don't see why they would make any distinction between bad mutants and good mutants.
Yeah, especially with the people they're letting in and the people in the Quiet Council, even, which we will get to in the next page.
Yes. So after Xavier ends this, we cut to the next page, which is a nice data page that fills out the Quiet Council. We finally get who is on what spot. So just a quick run through. For the autumn table, we have Professor X, Magneto, and Apocalypse. On the winter table, we have Mr. Sinister, Exodus, and Mystique. For spring, we have the Black King, or Sebastian Shaw. We have the White Queen, or Emma Frost. And the third seat for the Red King is currently left blank. For summer, we have Storm, Jean Grey, and Nightcrawler. And finally, for Krakoa, we have Cypher and Krakoa.
Yeah, and we also get this bit about the great captains here, um, who are just like essentially military leaders. It seems like Cyclops is the leader, and then you also have Gorgon, Bishop, and Magic as the other ones. Sergio, what do you know about these mutants? Are there any that you just do not know?
Um, let's see. Out of the names alone, I'm not sure who Exodus is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure who most in the spring table are.
Mm-hmm.
And then of the great captains, I only know Cyclops.
Okay.
Yes. So
Well, I do know Emma Frost.
right.
Yes.
We've
yes.
seen her.
We've seen her.
Queen.
So Sebastian Shaw is who they kind of talked about a little bit before. He's uh the Hellfire guy that they wanted Emma to bring in. Very much just shady backroom dealer kind of guy. Exodus, I actually don't know much about him either. I believe his character is just kind of a zealot type guy.
I
I think he worked for Apocalypse at some point.
I do know a bit about Exodus. He is a zealot. He was around during the Crusades, actually, and Apocalypse found him and basically experimented on him to unlock his mutant powers. And then he went dormant for a long time until Magneto found him in the present day, brought him back, and then he's been a zealot for Magneto pretty much ever since.
Yeah, that sounds like someone you would put on the Quiet Council.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for the captains, Bishop is a time traveling X Men. I honestly haven't read much of his stuff, but he's been around quite a bit. If you know Colossus, Magic is his sister. She's a pretty prominent New Mutant. Gorgon is a mutant who used to be in Hydra, like pretty far up the ladder, actually. So, yeah, typically a villain.
Oh, nice. And a Nazi villain. That's fun.
Yeah. I don't know if he was ever very much a true believer in the Hydra stuff, but he was definitely in there.
Nice. Sure, that is a good establishment to have, is to put an old higher up Nazi in your military squad.
Yeah, it's fine.
I will say I do particularly love Apocalypse being on the same table as Professor X and Magneto, especially in a following page that's going to come up where he just towers over them, sitting in a small chair. I love the fact that he has gone from probably one of the bigger mutant villains to being, no, you can join us on our government. Here, come on, come have a seat at the table with Xavier.
So, just kind of off of feeling, how do you feel about this lineup of Krakoa leaders here?
Is that to me or is that to Sergio?
Uh, let's say Sergio on that one.
Um, I really can't tell. I mean, I guess most of these are like prominent mutants. The first table seems to be the leaders one. Um, there's that, and the rest are really like high profile mutants who can interface with some subsection or part of the setting. Like we've seen Emma Frost is very good at business and like politics and diplomacy. Um, Mystique has that. I still think Mystique is. I'm not sure what she's doing here actually.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Sinister does have that island. I guess that's some leverage. And then the rest, Storm, Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, they're just X-Men, like big profile X-Men.
Yeah, just stick them on the team to have some. Oh, look, there's some X-Men here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And later on, we are going to get a bit more as to why some of these people were picked, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I do think Storm is kind of always portrayed as someone who is also at the helm of things
Mm-hmm.
in the X-Men. Is that accurate?
Yes.
If there are leaders, I would say it would be Cyclops and then Storm.
Hmm.
And she did have a run for a long time in the comics where she was married to T'Challa or Black Panther. So she was Queen of Wakanda for a good while.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but if there's someone you want shit to get done, you go to Storm. So she's a very good pick for this one. But following all of this data that we get, we cut to the first meeting of the Quiet Council in this honestly really gorgeous meeting room that they have. It looks to be in the middle of a ring of waterfalls with Krakoa's face kind of growing over with a canopy above them. It's very pretty. I like what they did there.
I hope we're ready. It's politics time. I like Cypher just chilling in Krakoa's kind of like tree, by the way.
hmm
Hmm.
Everybody has a very nice seat at a very nice table, and Cypher's just chilling kind of almost on a bush, basically. But he seems comfy. So we get the images of the mutants that we just mentioned as family, friends, and allies. And the first order of business is to release Sabertooth. And Sabertooth is released from this almost holding water bubble that Krakoa had, and he's dropped into the middle of this space. And he immediately is trying to figure out what's going on by threatening everybody there.
Uh-huh. Seems very much his style.
Yeah. And then everyone proceeds to talk around him for like the remainder of the time he is here.
Yes. So, what we're getting into here is the first laws of Krakoa being established. There are three of them that are going to be built here. I'm going to go through them one by one so we can talk about each of them because there's a lot of dialogue between the characters going on here. So, the first mutant law that gets established is murder no man. Initially, this is brought up by Sinister in a joke that says killing a mutant should be against the law, which Apocalypse immediately shoots back that if you cannot kill something which cannot be killed, then how will you ever test them to see if they're worthy? Which, of course, discusses some of those that are here. And Jean Grey says that the opposite should be true. If they're going for high ideals here, then it should be the greatest crime to kill somebody that cannot be brought back.
Yeah, I kind of take issue with this. Mutants can be killed. They can be brought back, sure, but like they still can be killed.
Yeah, that's still bad. I feel like they're kind of getting stonewalled by Apocalypse here. I see what they're ending on, but like the person that died if a mutant died is dead. Like they might only be about that might be only about like 7 days or so like worth of like what they are, but that's still like someone that cannot come back, which is still murder. So yeah, I don't know what all this is about. But I think it kind of makes sense where they kind of landed on it.
Sure. I wonder. I know that they wouldn't be interested in doing it, but I wonder if humans could be brought back by the same method that is described in the previous issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because
because
If they wanted, could it
it's
happen? I don't think there's
it
anything that.
seems like they could. The only thing that
Yeah.
would be different is they would just have to copy a human's mind, but
yeah,
realistically,
Yeah.
yeah, they should be able to.
yeah, like they don't really have like the database of humans that they have of mutants, but I don't know why they couldn't be able to do the same thing there. I guess again, it's
Yeah.
probably because
I don't think.
they just don't
I
want
don't
to.
think it's as significant a distinction as they make it out to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think it's interesting, Tim, that you're not super for this. I actually think it's kind of funny that Apocalypse is immediately like, well, no, if we can't kill each other, how else will we get stronger? Because that's his whole MO.
Oh
But
yeah.
he kind of arguably has a point where they can't feasibly die for a long term. Sure, they might go back into the resurrection queue, but eventually they're gonna be back. So I think Jean has the right point of it that one of the highest crimes that could be done here is to kill somebody who can't come back. It makes sense. And I think it's interesting that that's the first law that they establish here.
I agree to a point, but like it's still like if a mutant dies, they're still dying. Like you can only have a backup up to a certain point, and you still like if you kill a mutant, they're still going through death. That's not a fun time. Like
Right,
that's a pretty bad thing to do to someone still.
right.
Yeah, I think they ultimately arrive at the right place, but they do so through bad logic.
Yeah.
Yes, especially Magneto's. He chimes in here a little bit because Mystique brings up, what about defense? You know, humans are always going to try to kill them. Does that mean in defense, are they not allowed to kill them back?
Oh,
And
Magneto
Magneto,
says no,
yeah,
war's okay actually, and brushes it off.
yeah. He's like, that's a deeper issue. We're just going to not worry about that right now. So, it very kind of theatrical hand waving that he does that I've learned that he likes to do thanks to Sergio. The second you first pointed out that Magneto's very dramatic, I've seen it every time he's shown up and I
Oh
love
yeah,
it.
it's just what he does.
He rehearses this stuff. He lives
Yeah.
for it.
Mm-hmm. So after this first law is decided, Sabertooth tries to butt in because he sees where this is going. They just decided that murdering a human is one of the worst crimes you can commit, and he was just put almost in jail for murdering a bunch of humans. Thankfully, Emma and Jean just kind of immediately shut him up with their powers, and they move on to some more things. We are also introduced here to Sebastian Shaw, which is the anti-Sergio, as I like to call him. As
I hate him.
Property rights.
If he
he,
has hero, yeah, if he has zero haters, I'm dead.
yes, he immediately jumps in with his pro-capitalism. He wants property rights, he wants wealth, he wants currency, he wants all of that all immediately set up.
A few of the things man clearly got right. It is like the exact opposite of what you want to do if you're trying to start up a new society with a distinct culture is immediately copy this shit.
Yes, you don't immediately go to capitalism if you want something better. Do not do that.
God.
So thankfully, Cypher chimes in that Krakoa is actually sentient and alive, so property rights aren't really going to work out here. Also, Storm has a point where mutants aren't barred from owning anything in the rest of the world. Just on Krakoa, probably not going to happen. Which is leading into our second law, which is to respect this sacred land. And that term sacred comes specifically from Exodus, as he jumps in with a line about the Garden of Eden and how this place is a paradise gifted to them.
Yeah.
So
This is really a ideal scenario for mutants here. Like they just got given a land that they can occupy without having to displace anyone, and it's so outright correct for them to take it that they literally got the thumbs up from the land itself. So yeah,
Yeah.
I do think it's a little odd. I'm not sure if this was on purpose on Hickman's end, that they are trying to make a mutant government, mutant laws, a mutant society, but yet one of their highest ideals is informed by a human religion. As Exodus comes in here and compares it to the Garden of Eden. And thus they turn that into, okay, then now this is more of like a religious reverence to the land itself instead of simply just respecting the land as if it were another individual.
To their credit, it is.
To their credit, yes, it is.
Yeah,
so
like
that makes...
Yeah, Krakoa is a person with personhood, so I guess that is fair. But yeah, it is kind of weird with the wording used for this.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like
I
you said.
The whole conceit of occupying this land that gave its approval to you to occupy it kind of walks around very conveniently through every like colonialist argument that you could make.
Yeah.
Instead of them forcefully coming in and either killing whoever was here or enslaving the living land itself, they just talked to it, made a deal, and they were like, okay, we're good.
Yeah, they want a new nation and want conveniently literally sprouted up from the ocean and gave them magic plants that lets them create more land if needed.
Yeah.
So this definitely is a great workaround for...
Yeah, we just get to skip the colonialism situation. Stuff, which, yeah. I mean, if you don't want to get into it, that's fair. Like...
Yeah, and I wonder if when writing this, that was on Hickman's mind, or if that's just a byproduct of how this has ended up going. Like, I don't know if he considered that, or if it was just, no, there was a living island, now they live there.
No, I could definitely see this as, like, a deliberate choice of, if you don't want to bring up the topic of colonialism, which it would be otherwise, how do you have them do that? And this is a pretty good solution for it. Anyway, and our third law.
And our third law, probably my least favorite of the three, which is make more mutants. We get to this as Xavier is trying to steer back the conversation to capitalism, but Mystique kind of pops in and asks what the religious among them thinks. And we cut to Nightcrawler as he's thinking, and he references a passage from the Bible about, God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And he says, obviously, this means some of their laws must be to make more mutants.
This really calls to mind, like, right-wing, ultra-conservative, like, traditional family kind of movement that's going on now.
Yeah.
And it really gives me a sour taste.
Yeah, part of why I always like to reference when these were released is because as we get into 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic, we're going to see some things change because of what's going on in the world. And at that time, that rhetoric was still there. I don't think it was as loud as it is currently when we're recording this. But you can always also see this law being taken in the wrong hands to be very anti-LGBTQ+, to be very, traditional family. You need to make more mutants, all sorts of stuff like that.
This is the whole, we need more white people because minorities are diluting the gene pool, and by 2027, they're going to overtake the white population kind of stuff, kind of rhetoric.
Which, interestingly enough, is what Orcus is based on. They have the same thing, not with the, we need to make more kids, but we're going to be outnumbered.
Yeah, the constant concern with, like, genetics and how the populations are behaving in such a way that one's going to overtake the other, or it's going to be inevitable that the mutants will eventually win out.
Mm-hmm.
That's all like Fox Science talk nowadays
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
like these conservative movements.
Yeah, a lot of, white supremacism, all of that sort of stuff is,
Mm-hmm.
rooted in a lot of that. I will say, as we're discussing this, I do not think that was the intention of Hickman. I'm not sure what he meant or intended with this, but I highly doubt it was something along those lines to be nefarious from the mutant side of it. This kind of falls into the other one of respecting the sacred land, where I think it's a little odd that wanting to create a new society, they again fall back onto a man made religion. But I mean, that's probably also the downsides of just being written by another person. It's hard for us to think of something that is not human related because we are people.
Well, it's also
Right. Yeah, I think this is just it's already been invoked, the kind of war or arms race that's going on between humans and mutants, and so they are just playing the game that the humans have already declared exists in in that, like, the population game. This is a series that's very concerned about population. We get population numbers all the time.
Yes.
yeah.
So it's logical for me to include this, but the way it's portrayed as like this one of our three primary laws that is going to guide us into the future as a new land of mutants, making it one about reproduction and
Yes.
yeah,
It's
like
very
population is
it's very odd.
It's-
it leaves a bad taste.
Yeah.
I would say like as far as like where the mutants are concerned, it is something that it's been a focus on these past couple of issues that the mutants have been kind of decimated past or since kind of like with Wanda and Genosha. So seeing Nightcrawler have this stance doesn't seem too out there. But the whole thing really just kind of feels like an afterthought, also. Like, all the other laws were kind of debated and discussed, not, in depth, but enough. This one is just Mystique ass Nightcrawler, what he thinks. He throws out a Bible verse, says we need to make more mutants, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like
that's fair.
there's not much thought put into this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Although,
you're right. And I don't know how they would discuss it. Maybe maybe they just kind of sweep it under the rug.
yeah,
Yeah.
just be like, yeah, okay, Nightcrawler, we know you want to go hook up with somebody, just whatever. I do think it's interesting what Mystique brings up, because Nightcrawler is traditionally very religious, but again, they have the new thing of they can't die. They are brought back. So how does this change their views among the religious mutants? Do they still follow their old faith? Are they now conflicted? Where are they with that? And kind of like with the rest of this issue, as we're going to be wrapping it up, a lot of what is being talked about and discussed are open ended. Answers are not really given, pathways are opened up. I do think that was Hickman's intention since we're about to launch into a new line of comics. And part of me really likes that, what he was able to do, and just set up all of this stuff where if later on somebody wanted to pick up this piece of it, they totally could. But once we have our three laws, as they get their nice own data page here, we are back now to the problem of Sabertooth, as Victor Creed has in fact broken one of these laws and has killed Man on the mission that they sent him to initially retrieve the data. And Xavier posits the question of, is he better off being given a second chance, or should he be made an example of to show that no mutant is above the law? And Magneto comes in and says, no, you should be punished to show that we have a higher purpose here. And everyone, including Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, agree. And we have Sabertooth being the first mutant put into exile.
I want to talk about what this exile is, specifically. They refer to it as stasis, deep inside Krakoa, alive but immobile, aware but unable to act on it. And for how long? Forever, Creed, for this is how long mutant justice lasts. and this is as he's being dragged down into the pit, screaming. Um, the reason this is done is apparently because there's no traditional prisons, or there will be no prisons on Krakoa. Um, how do we feel about this?
You know, they say
Look, I'm
there's no
for
prison.
prison. I'm for prison abolition. This is not what I have in mind.
Yeah.
No.
Like, it's interesting because it's Sabertooth is like Sabertooth's a monster.
Hmm.
Uh, he has had multiple chances and probably had this coming. Uh, this is still pretty messed up. Uh,
This is pretty brutal. This is what happened in the very first issue of Powers, where they catch that girl and put
Oh,
her in a
yes. Silabel?
tube.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And they
yeah,
put her into the tube. Yeah.
yeah. I guess he's not morphing into anything, but it is still pretty much just like, yeah, you're going to just be stuck here conscious without being able to do anything about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Um,
it's not more than a couple of steps up from being dissolved in a tube of acid
Yeah.
to become part of a giant library.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
again, I very much agree with you, Sergio, about the whole prison thing, but you got to have some form of rehabilitation, and this is not that.
I don't think they were going for rehabilitation, which is, I think, why they said no prisons. Because, you know, air quotes traditionally, prisons are about rehabilitation, and this is clearly not. This is just a holding cell. This is just somewhere to put him without having to kill him. So, I mean, effectively, this is a prison in all but name. And it's
Yeah, this is
really
just
messed up.
punitive justice in a very messed up way.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
and
I think what helps also make this really really messed up is it's a retroactive law.
yeah,
He didn't
he didn't
he
get a
didn't murder.
chance to do anything about it, and he realizes this entire time he's angry and just lashing out and threatening them. But Sabretooth sees what's coming here. He sees them talking around him, and he knows exactly where this is going. And he's right. It's not going to turn out well for him.
Hmm. And I think it's interesting too, and I'm sure it's on purpose, but the first thing they do is not try to decide the laws. The first thing they do is they bring Sabretooth out. And then they discuss the laws, some of which don't even have anything to do with him. So you have all of these laws being created with the backdrop of Sabertooth standing in the middle, threatening everybody, and all of them thinking about judgment on their minds.
Yeah, again, it's they're talking past him. Like he's was never in this to have a discussion and try to prove his innocence. Which I mean, again, he couldn't. He killed a bunch of people, but like that's the whole thing. He never really had a chance to. This wasn't really much of a court, or this wasn't really like
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And it also, I've been thinking about it. What would you do in that situation? You have somebody who is a known killer, who is known not to follow the rules, who is very destructive, very powerful. How do you handle that? What do you do in this situation? And honestly, I don't think the pit is a right choice, but I also don't have a solution to the Sabertooth problem.
Yeah,
I mean, there's gotta be something between letting him go and throwing him into the pit.
yeah, like this is something that's been criticized about like the U.S. prison system and just general prison systems where it's more just we're gonna throw you somewhere and there's not much thought put into actually rehabilitating them and what they do afterward. This is essentially just a life sentence in a prison with somehow less freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they are mutants. They have crazy powers. They can revive themselves. Um, I think they would be able to come up with a rehabilitation program.
Yeah, just something not this, and especially because it's the whole thing with Krakoa seems to be kind of forgiving past sins. You come in and you're able to do whatever they can, and yeah, again, Sabretooth did disobey orders, but the fact that this is retroactive, just I don't know, like he didn't know he was breaking these laws when he did them.
Yeah, there's
He,
that part of it too that really bugs me about it because technically Wolverine did the same thing in space.
right.
You know,
Uh,
I mean, yeah,
but
what they're showing themselves to be is like an extremely authoritarian council with extremely conservative laws that are kind of thinking of themselves as doing the dirty work, doing what needs to be done. It's kind of an authoritarian dream here, what's going on, especially as they step into the outside where everyone's partying and you get to see a lot of fireworks and bonfires, etc. And you can tell what they see themselves as is like the protectors that are doing the dirty work and hiding it away from the people who are there to be governed.
Right.
So it's a really dire situation in my eyes. What we're seeing here in terms of governance for Krakoa.
Yeah.
And
like you get this line at the end where after Xavier's done sending Sabertooth to the pit hell, he says, it's distasteful, I know, this business of running a nation, and just some spiel about how he hopes they never get used to it. And it's like, man, that is some bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be this
you
way.
You didn't need to do this. Like,
no,
not at all.
You can do whatever you want. Like,
yeah, you are building this nation. You are starting anew. You don't have to do this.
You didn't have to mimic the worst part of like authoritarianism and white supremacy.
Yes,
in
yes.
your first council meeting.
yeah.
Yes. And I will say, as a plus to Hickman's part of this, is Sabertooth you could argue either way for as maybe a bit of a gray area, but none of this comes across or is explicitly, air quotes, evil. A lot of this is like, ooh, that's not really that great, but hey, we built Mutant Paradise. So it's showing some of the cracks of, hey, these are your heroes, they're building a nation, but they're probably not good people.
Yeah, like, are these random mutants partying in the streets going to be okay with it if they learned what happened to Sabertooth?
Yeah. Like,
are they going to tell them? Probably not.
Yeah. How many of these other people are going to be thrown into the pit? Like, there's a lot of questions here that are just left open. We have no clue.
Uh-huh.
But kind of like Sergio and Tim said, at the end of this, Xavier kind of launches into another spiel, kind of to bookend this issue, as all of the mutants are let outside, and there is just a massive party going on Krakoa, as there are hundreds of mutants around, just having the best time of their lives. And he basically says that he hopes that none of them get used to the dirty work that they have to do, because they're doing this for all of the other mutants, for all of the other children, so that they can look up into the night sky and dream whatever they want to do instead of being afraid. And, we get all of these images of these mutants that we know being happy, having a great time. And then it just ends with Xavier and Magneto standing on a cliff, looking very majestic as they look at everything that they've made. And that will end the issue here.
This later monologue comes off as very empty to me after what we saw in the council. Like a lot of very empty platitudes. You could set this to some melody and I would believe you it's out of Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. It's
very like empty platitudes regarding nation making. I'm not buying it.
It's very self-righteous.
It is.
He very much believes in what he's doing, but he's so arrogant in it that he doesn't believe anything he's doing is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I will absolutely give this seeing Wolverine and Cyclops. Wolverine, Cyclops, and Jean Grey kind of all have a drink together is legitimately kind of nice. But yeah, no, I agree. All of this is just... the narration over this is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's kind of sinister, like we've been talking about, because they are referencing everybody in here as being their children that they need to protect and watch over, which can really easily fall into more authoritarian actions, as they have to protect all of these children that may or may not know clearly what they're doing, but it's okay. We in the Quiet Council know exactly what we're doing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, definitely not the way I was expecting this run to end. I was expecting some more closure, but I guess this is kind of an epilogue, and what closure we were going to get already came on issue number 5, which was like the whole boat stuff and things.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of just a bow to put on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice bow on it. It kind of shows you where the door is that's going to lead into a bunch of other stories and is like, hey, you know what? Go have fun. This is what the new era is, and this is what you have to play with.
So do we want to get into Powers of X?
Yeah.
Sure. So, for Powers of X number 6, it is simply titled The House of X. It is, of course, written by Hickman and originally released in October of 2019. We're once again in the past in the X Men Year One in this very happy looking Xavier walking through a bit of the forest here as we are cut back to the first sequence of this entire story of him going through the carnival, sitting, and Moira walks up to him and talks to him about a couple things. It's the exact same, the dialogue is the same, the faces are the same, but now we know everything that is said here by Moira has several meanings attached to it. Even just her looks have several meanings to it now.
Yeah, it's another thing where it's just kind of this is recontextualized. Now you kind of know like what she's been through and what she's done, and we're about to get to learn more.
Yeah. So, after we get that, we are thrust again to the year 1000 with the X Men, and we are this time in the Preserve. If you remember, that is the large habitat in this future era that is supposed to collect the mistakes of the past. And we finally learned what's in there. It's the last mutants on the planet, including Wolverine and Moira.
Uh huh.
So we have a bit of an interesting conversation here where the librarian is entering the preserve and is giving food to the various mutants that are still here. And he gets into a conversation with Wolverine and essentially tells him, hey, I've been listening to you in your conversations this entire time with Moira. I know what Moira's powers are. I know that when she dies, everything gets reset. And he's unsure about what to do about it because he reveals to them that the ascension is coming, that the phalanx are here. They are going to destroy everything on the planet so that the post humans can live forever in this massive technarch mind. And the librarian's not sure if he wants to do it. He kind of presents it as he's not sure if it is a real existence or not. Essentially, if all that you are is uploaded somewhere else and you can't feel things, see things with your eyes, and who you are right now, is it really existing?
Yeah,
Yeah, we've kind of been bamboozled here a little bit because that this means that the 1000 years in the future sections we've been reading didn't really match up with the 100 years in the future that we were reading as we initially thought.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of assumed that was like a future timeline or whatever, and that would all and it's kind of like the same thing. It's this is just another Moira timeline.
Yes. Is
Mm-hmm.
this is this the one that was
The
hidden in the original timeline we got?
Yeah, the reveal at the end of this whole section is that this ends the life of Moira Six or Moira Six life, and yeah, that was the one
Mm-hmm.
that we just didn't know about.
Yes.
Right.
Which, again, I don't know where I was when I read this the first time. I completely forgot that this was her sixth life. I thought that was still some sort of big mystery that we were going to learn at some point when it was answered, like, back in 2019. So,
Oh yeah,
I don't know what happened there. But essentially, the librarian has this really nice philosophical question of, what is true existence? And he wants to know what Moira would do with this knowledge because he knows she can go back in time and change things. Or not back in time, but reset everything and make different choices. So he wants to know what she would have done to stop them.
yeah. So pretty much here's where the librarian is that he at this moment has arranged to send them off planet because he knows if Moira is to die, the universe is going to reset. But he thinks that once he is into, or once he's been ascended, it won't matter if the universe resets. He's will be able to prevent it.
Hmm. It ties back into those data pages about the types of universes and societies that we kind of went over. But once he's a part of the Technarch in the black hole, essentially those go across space and time. So he will know Moira exists regardless of what happens to her. So he's at a bit of a conundrum. So, as a I don't know if it's a test or more of just a moral quandary for this individual, he explains how mutants always lost. And it wasn't because of the robots, even though robots usually did kill them in the end. It was humanity being able to evolve itself using science and technology.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because they touched on this post-humanity thing, and I think this is the moment where we have a pretty big distinction from post-humans and robots or machines, I guess, but where post-humans are humanity being advanced by machines. So at that point, they've also eclipsed machines.
Hmm. It's explained a little bit that whenever robots evolve, humanity will also go farther, and because humanity goes farther, machines will go farther, and so on and so forth until they hit an end state. And it looks like the humanity end state or the post humanity end state is just being able to turn themselves into Superman if they wanted to.
Yeah, so he kind of talks a little bit about it, how they are mutants were supposed to be the next step of human evolution, but with them and the machine's technology, they're able to just evolve however they want, and they don't really need evolution in a typical fashion anymore.
Yeah. So while technically mutants are the next evolutionary step, they're the next natural evolutionary step. The unnatural evolutionary step is a lot stronger than they are.
Yeah.
And Moira kind of laments this because she never was looking at them. She was always looking at the machines and the robots as the problem and never considered humanity or post humanity as the one that would also lock them in a cage. So, with all of this new information and all of this new data that she now has, Wolverine and her decide that it's better that she resets with all of this and tries something else. And interestingly enough, Wolverine is able to kill the librarian. Whereas at the start of this, Wolverine does try and surprise attack the librarian, but the latter of which responds and says that his brain works so quickly and his reflexes are so fast that Wolverine would never be able to catch him. So this says to me that the librarian let him kill him. Why? Not entirely sure.
Yeah, he read to me the whole time like he was having doubts about becoming one with the ascension stuff. This is a pretty clear case of self sabotage.
Hmm.
Yeah, he either put himself into a position where he got caught off guard, or he just let himself die here. I think both interpretations are kind of fine, although I feel like I feel like this is leaning more toward he let himself die.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I would agree with that. Reading this here too, I realized it kind of vaguely parallels the ability of resurrection for mutants now, because what the librarian questions is that joining the Godhead, he would still technically be himself, but he would not be able to experience anything with his own body again. So, and with mutant resurrection, it's arguably the same thing. Your entire consciousness and who you are would be preserved and continue on and on and on, but your original body of how you see things and experience things would then be gone. So the question would remain, is that a true existence or is it a false one?
Yeah, and to be fair, the mutants get to avoid the aspect of being part of a giant hive mind, I guess. But
Also
um
true.
yeah, it is seemingly kind of similar of like, is that still living if you are essentially being copied into something else?
Mhm.
I
It's
wonder if
it's
I wonder if Moira came up with the idea of it, and this is or mutant resurrection, and this is where she got it from.
it it actually mentions it a little later that we'll touch on, but it's actually Xavier that comes up with the idea.
Oh right, yeah.
Um, but the question that he brings up is a really fun philosophical one. It's also the really funny Star Trek question as well with their teleporters of your entire body is disassembled and then reassembled back wherever you're teleporting. So is that really you, or did you die when you first used the teleporter? It's the same kind of fun question as what is an individual, who is the self? No real answer, but it's a lot of fun. So once we get a data page here describing humanity, mutants, and then post humanity, we are back in year one of the X Men, and we see the follow up of Xavier reading Moira's mind. And he basically blacks out for a moment before coming to with Moira explaining that yes, what he saw was true, and yes, they do lose every single time.
Yeah, there's a fun little exchange here where Moira says, "Oh, you never change," and Charles says, "Thank you," and she just fires back with, "That's not a compliment."
Mm-hmm. Because after everything she's been through, after all of the murders and deaths and genocides, he still, even after seeing all of that, immediately defaults to his original position of, well, maybe if I just appealed to humanity more, maybe if I just helped them a little bit more, maybe they will like us. And she learned to love that about him, even though he's wrong. They will still kill them in the end.
Yeah, she comes off as really manipulative in this
Yeah, we,
Yes.
we get
whole situation.
we get the next little page thing here is Moira's journal, where we kind of see like her thoughts when she's kind of confronting everyone and like as they're showing up in like the X-Men canon. And
Hmm.
yeah, she's just kind of pulling the strings and trying to get this to the correct outcome.
Yes, it. We get several pages here of a lot of text. It's all very good, but essentially, Moira's goal is to break Xavier, and she says that specifically. Is she is trying to break him down, break him out of his empathy, and change him into the tool he needs to be for all that's coming.
Yeah, yeah, she definitely does not care on an emotional or personal level about these people. She's just trying to um, mold them
Mm-hmm.
into what she needs
Mm-hmm.
them to be.
Yeah,
They've.
there's like, sorry, go on.
I was gonna say they've kind of become pawns essentially in the game that she's playing.
Yeah, there's like a whole note about here where she gets to Magneto and she's like, "All right, we recruited him. He's we're gonna have setbacks with him, but I planted a imprint of him with a stronghold in his mind, so he's always going to want stuff like that," which is really kind of funny in hindsight, because that kind of retroactively explains why Magneto was like doing stuff like, "Let's make a mutant society on an asteroid."
That's pretty funny.
She has like a note here about Apocalypse when he shows up, and she's just like, "Yeah, I can't recruit him yet. Just let him do his thing and try to stay out of his way."
Yeah, it is fun to see some of the past mutant events kind of referenced here by her of like, yep, this is happening like it should be, just gonna keep going.
Uh, so the short entry about Magneto about how they lost him and they had hoped to give him an opportunity. Do you know what that one's about?
I do not. I was thinking about that as well. I know you know a little bit more about what happened right before this run. I don't know if Magneto died or turned against them or if anything like that happened.
Okay, so this one's kind of fun. Uh, During an Avengers storyline, they fought Magneto and turned him into a baby.
I'm
Um,
sorry?
Yeah. So eventually he stopped being a baby and became Magneto again, but he just wasn't as evil as he was clearly. And this is kind of when Claremont was primarily writing him, and they kind of had him turn, not evil. Did a lot of work with the X Men. Eventually took over and led the New Mutants for a while. And then the reveal later is they had baby Magneto with Moira for a while, and apparently they did something to him, like manipulated him and made him more predisposed to not be a mustache twirling villain. And then he found out about this, got mad, and became evil again, and that's kind of what she's referring to here.
You know, that's just the right level of comics ridiculousness that I actually really like it.
Yeah.
Like, That's dumb. that is very silly of a storyline. But I
Yep.
like that it's referenced here of like, yeah, we turned him into a baby. He got evil again. That was my fault. Whoops.
Yeah, and then apparently Moira fakes her own death not long after that, and that's kind of where we are now.
Mm-hmm. But Sergio, what do you think about Baby Magneto?
I would need more information about Baby Magneto. I have some reading to do.
Yeah, we need to research this. Maybe dive into the tomes a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do find it very funny that they're willing to reference something that's of such a different tone
Mm-hmm.
uh, like this. Yeah, it's neat. It's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's
I
very
do
fun.
appreciate the levity.
Yeah, it's very interesting because again, like that entry is delivered with such seriousness and like, oh no, we've
Uh-huh.
lost Magneto, and it's like, oh yeah, he figured out they manipulated him when he was a baby. Like, uh,
Oops.
yep. Anyway,
Uh, so Tim touched on it a little bit, and I believe we've mentioned it in previous episodes. But yes, as of when this came out, Moira was technically dead. She was, not here. But we learned that no, it was a golem, and she was basically almost the first test run of the cerebro mind copying that was going on.
Hmm.
And then after we get this nice couple of pages of journal entries, we are back in Moira's no space, and Magneto and Xavier
oh,
arrive with a gift of tea.
one more thing I do want to touch on is in these entries she does mention they went to Mr. Sinister and she did not want them to do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I completely missed that one, but yes, they do mention that, and she was very upset that these men decided to just decide what to do.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because we kind of had a discussion I think before where we talked about like Moira signed off on doing Sinister again because that seemed like a mistake back in one of her timelines. So seeing as they went behind her back to make that happen, I feel like makes more sense.
Yeah, I guess that does make sense.
Mm-hmm. And then also referencing that Xavier was the one to come up with the idea of resurrection. In her entry number 17, she mentions that Charles had a breakthrough and stopped fighting her on the Save Humanity bit, and he came up with the idea of mutants working in tandem and what they can do together. And that if they could find a mutant that could modify genetic material, then maybe they could do something really interesting. In which Moira immediately writes, not directly, that she's going to figure out some genetic modifications so she or Charles can just go have a baby with somebody.
So yeah, let's go back to the no place for now.
Yeah. We're going to ignore the weird genetic manipulation and go on back to her no place, as Moira is not a little concerned, she's more sassy about the fact that Magneto and Xavier have brought her tea, because she mentions that there are two doors in her no place, one that leads to the House of X, and the other which leads to one of mankind's greatest culinary cities. And she questions why they have brought her this, because they have greater concerns going on. And she correctly guesses that they're here for something, not just out of a kindness of their heart. And they reveal to her that the Quiet Council has finally met for the first time, a government has been formed, and they explain a little bit of the decisions that they made with selecting the mutants that they did.
Yeah, so Apocalypse seems like he was chosen just because he's kind of like another leader type. Jean Grey, Storm, and Nightcrawler were absolutely chosen, so just to be more kind of wings of Xavier. Uh, White Queen and or Emma and Sebastian, we kind of discussed this already, kind of chosen just because of like political ties.
Right.
The winner table's interesting. I guess Sinister makes sense. They can't do this without him, so they give him a position of power just so they can kind of keep an eye on him. I'm not really sure why they gave Exodus and Mystique seats here.
Exodus, I can kind of see why, because they mentioned he has an unyielding code, and they know the complication of unflinching ideology, so I would imagine it's to keep an eye on him. Reading up on Exodus for this, I also learned that he is an Omega level mutant, He is incredibly powerful, one of the most powerful telekinetic mutants that they have. So I would imagine keeping a close eye on him would be a really good thing to do.
Yeah, I guess that does make sense. He is an Omega mutant. Mystique's a shapeshifter. I have to imagine they need her for a reason or another because I feel like having her this close and yanking her around as much as they are feels unnecessary.
It really feels like her characterization is all over the place. She's not so much in a leadership position for much of this run, yet she ends up here when all we've seen her do is be an operative.
Right.
Yes, and I think that's interesting as well. She does have the benefit of being able to go anywhere with her disguises, but it is odd to put her in that position and not, say, a captain.
Yeah, that's an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't see why she should be in the governance committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really get it either. It's a little bit odd. I assume there's more to this, but I guess we'll see. Um,
Yes.
Anyway, apparently they promised her to bring back Destiny. Moira's not happy about this, and Charles and Magneto also don't seem to have any intention of actually fulfilling this. But Moira's still very upset.
Yeah,
So Destiny presumably dead at some point.
Yes. Before this, Destiny did die at some point in an event leading up to this. Not entirely related. Uh, but Moira does mention that no precogs are allowed to be brought back on Krakoa at all. There's just a blanket ban. And she does not explain why here.
Well, she kind of mentions this a little bit, and it's like this fact that what she kind of told Charles, we always lose. So she's afraid a precog will see them losing, and that this cannot last. Um, but I feel like she clearly has more up her sleeve here.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I am also thinking part of me thinks that she only wanted Destiny banned from this because Destiny did track her down one time, threaten her, and then burned her alive. That would scare the shit out of me too. But it would have been weird if they just banned Destiny and not all the others. So I'm wondering if they just did a blanket ban just to cover their tracks.
Yeah, and that might be the intention here. Moira kind of hints that there might be more to it, but it does seem like the god of it is, or the thought of it is to ban precogs. Because I'm assuming they're not telling everybody else that precogs are banned either.
No, it does
No,
not
this
seem
was
like it.
not one of like the rules that we saw in the previous issue.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. No. And as far as we can tell, it was never brought up in the Quiet Council either. So only these three know about it, which technically also, as they're discussing this, because Xavier and Magneto both say that everyone deserves to know the truth of Moira and what's going on, these three are the only ones that actually know what's happening here. Everybody else, everybody in the Quiet Council, everybody on the island, has no clue what's happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's again, it's they've put themselves into a very high position of power here.
Yeah, this is the shadow government.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering.
Ticking all of the boxes.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
little by little.
And I'm wondering how much of this is who is in charge between these three. Because it seems like Xavier and Magneto are playing to Moira's tune up until a point, and then they're doing stuff on their own that's clearly making her upset. So it's a little odd whatever their relationship here is. I'm not quite sure if it's clearly they're friendly, but I don't know if they're always going to listen to her, if she's always going to trust them. It's almost kind of rocky.
Yeah, it feels like Moira is kind of in a position where she needs to trust them and she wants to try to play them. It's just not always successful.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
these two have a tendency to try to play everyone else too. Yeah, so we kind of get the party scene again with another narration about how they're going to have Moira just not do anything.
Yeah, I do kind of like this reframing of the same celebration, but this time talking to Moira, because they're basically building her up as, you did this, you shaped us into the tools we had to be in order to make this island and make it all great. You should be proud of yourself, and you should rest, because now we can do it.
Yeah, she does not get to reap any of these rewards. She gets to sit in her little bubble.
Mm-hmm. Which,
Yeah, and I can kind of see the frustration from Moira as I imagine after having lived however many lives, the scale at which she is operating, um, this is a very small victory, even though from their perspective it's a big one.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
this is
She's
huge.
playing for much bigger stakes.
Yeah, this is the biggest thing they've ever done. Moira's done this 9 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, she has seen the arrogance, the rise and fall, people massacred and killed. So, of course she's going to be upset because she's watching the same thing happen again in a different situation.
Yeah.
So, but it comes with a nice contrast here at the end as Xavier and Magneto talk to each other and they both wonder is if they've done enough. And Magneto, being the dramatic man that he is, essentially says that I will die for this country, and then you can raise me back up because you're my brother, and then we will fight them again. They're just being really, really dramatic and full of themselves, and it's very silly.
Let
Yeah, in a way that contrasts nicely with the entries we just saw in text from Moira, where she's like very calculating and again, obviously playing for way bigger stakes than Krakoa being formed like this.
Yeah, and these two do not really seem to grasp that. But
No. Mm-mm.
so yeah, that's the end of Powers of X.
Mm-hmm. That is the wrap up of House of X and Powers of X. Hickman's wonderful new launch into an era of the X-Men that he created. Um, for all of this, I will just say I've loved it. I loved it when it came out. I've really enjoyed this reread. I do think House of X is stronger just all throughout its entirety. Powers of X is fun, but I think the emphasis on the year 1000 and its focus on the phalanx is a bit of a negative, mostly because it doesn't feel like the phalanx really end up being anything. But
Yeah, the way it resolves is so unsatisfying to me.
yeah.
Like it just falls apart. I don't know if we're ever going to hear about the Phalanx again or these post-human characters or society. But the way this whole thing ends is just very deflating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what do you think about it overall, Sergio, since this is your first time going through both of them?
Well, I think it's a very fun read. Reading something as part of a podcast is kind of a different experience as reading it for just one's enjoyment. So there's probably a lot of stuff I have definitely thought more than intended about. But like it's a really cool series of issues. I'm not a big comic reader
Mm-hmm.
really. Like most comics I've read before have been one-offs and short stuff that I can not commit to for the long run. And this seems like very much the opposite of that. This is something that's clearly designed to set up a setting and a set of circumstances and recurring characters and motives. And I think it does a really good job of that. Considering we're about to spin off into like 6 different runs
Mm-hmm.
in the coming weeks, it does leave a very interesting space for other authors and storytellers to come and play with.
Mm-hmm.
The art is beautiful. Um, there are some really good shots, really memorable stuff. I think the Moira issue is still the one that I had the most fun with and I most enjoyed for what it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I'm really looking forward to see all of these different threads that can be spun off of this set of issues, like coming to fruition and be exploited by other writers.
Mm-hmm. And kind of building off of that, is there anywhere you think this is specifically going? Like, do you have an idea of where it's headed, or do you think it's just kind of more like an open-ended kind of thing?
I guess the main thread of Orkis and the Sentinels and Nimrods will probably be the main thrust of the main conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, there is so much space that can be played
Mm-hmm.
with.
Mm-hmm.
We see that this is a world with superheroes. We barely saw them during this run, so maybe there will be more interactions with them, and that's going to be a good excuse for bringing in more conflicts.
Mm-hmm. And then,
So yeah, I do see a lot of space, a lot of opportunities for cool stories to be told.
okay, cool. And then one more before I move on to Tim. Is there any story or area of focus you're hoping that they get to? I know there's kind of a lot that was thrown out in here and a lot of stuff that wasn't, but is there a thread that you're hoping they do pick up on and run with?
God, I still think I would love to see a story where we saw like what the day-to-day life in Krakoa is
Mm-hmm.
for like low-tier mutants, especially in the early days. I don't know what they do when they're not partying and chanting for the revival of their brethren.
Mm-hmm. Or frolicking.
Yes, I would love to see what goes on like in the day to day, especially during these early days, when there is not even a government or a set of institutions around,
Mm-hmm.
to structure life around.
Mm-hmm. It's just a very open space with really nothing going on.
Yeah,
So,
I would like to see what it is like to be a citizen of Krakoa.
mm-hmm. Hopefully we will. So, Tim, I know you're like me. We've both read this since it came out. How is it going back to it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this at the time, and I had a pretty similar reaction here. I think, they aren't perfect minis, but I do think what they were designed to do was leave a lot of spots for people to kind of play with and mess around with. You got a lot of storylines you can kind of bounce off from here. And like if the goal is to set a new status quo for people to write in for the X-Men, I think this very much succeeded with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. It's a perfect jumping on point here because you don't have all of the past issues, the stories, and all of that. You can kind of walk into this with not knowing a whole lot and still get somewhere with it.
Yeah, I do think there is, like, if you were to show this to someone who has never any idea or any experience with X-Men, like I feel like most people have at least, seen the movies or a television series episode at least once. But I think if you didn't have that knowledge at all, it would be a kind of a rough jumping on point.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have like a basic knowledge, it's not too bad, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do
I would
think
agree with that.
it's very parsable overall.
Right.
I had really very little problems like jumping in, and my experience with the X-Men was like the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Seen some episodes of the old TV show, some episodes of the newer TV show, like a couple of movies. That was more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what I would agree on. I just think that bare minimum might be necessary to some degree. Just because it's a lot easier if you're reading this to be like, oh, that's Storm. I know she's a good guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I do believe I would agree with you. Maybe because there's part of me that views the X-Men kind of almost I shouldn't say Spider-Man because he's on a totally different level. But when you say the X-Men, most people now know who that is. You know, they're part of the cultural zeitgeist enough to where people can kind of know. So that even that little bit should be able to get you through this. But you're right, if you come into this not knowing who mutants or the X-Men are at all, then yeah, I can see you getting super lost.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I know you said it might not be fair to compare them to Spider-Man. I think it is actually. I think saying X-Men conjures a very specific image, just like Spider-Man would. Uh, and I do think it's a pretty similar level. Like someone's going to think, oh yeah, X-Men, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, like just the same way you picture Spider-Man.
That would be the hope, you know?
Yeah.
So, my last question to you two. You're a mutant. Do you go and live on Krakoa, yes or no?
Uh, I would need to do a little bit more research than what we have out at the moment to see if I would want to go or not. Uh, Honestly, it seems okay though. I get to go frolic in the leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd at least see the pitch.
Yeah, like
You know,
like you're not renouncing your citizenship when you go to Krakoa, so like why not? You just hop in a portal and go there.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, check it out. See how it feels.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd be all about it. Are you kidding? Gonna go live somewhere where everybody accepts each other for who they are and all of that without all the hate and vitriol that comes from everywhere else? I'd grab my first ticket and head on over.
Yeah, I do
I do
think.
want to see how it develops in the future. Like, are we gonna get like buildings eventually in depictions of Krakoa? Um, I'm very much interested in like the kind of infrastructure you build on it,
Uh,
especially since it's a living being.
yes.
Um, I'm guessing it's going to instantiate of more of those like biological UIs, but in the form of uh, houses.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then Sergio. Tim, you were gonna say something?
No, that's about all I got. We wanna end the episode there. Do we have anything more that we gotta talk about?
Uh, a
Or
couple
well,
of things.
start wrapping up.
Yeah, a couple things. I did look out for any interviews with Hickman. He did a couple before House and Powers came out, just kind of promoting it. And it was always promoted as a, hey, this is the start of a reboot kind of thing. There weren't a lot of interviews right afterwards, so there's a lot of stuff in here that I would love to ask him, but it looks like nobody really has. I did learn that all of the data pages, the X logos, the upcoming logos for all of the books were all created by Tom Muller. He's a graphic artist. Apparently, Jonathan Hickman reached out to him and just told him, hey, I need a really big X and a bunch of other stuff. Can you do that for me? And they got to work on it. And just some fun little tidbits. But Hickman has a couple of his own work that he's done, and apparently he's always kind of done these data pages. He does them more as a way to kind of play with the way that comics introduce information into everything. He gets a really interesting interview in Entertainment Weekly, of all things, where he says that when you read a comic book, you sort of know how the flow is going to go. You pick it up, you read it all the way through, you're just going to get everything, nice panels. And that's why he likes to throw in the data pages, because it breaks up what that is. It makes you stop with the normal traditional way a comic book is read and has you kind of focus on it a bit more. It allows him to change pace. We've noticed a lot of times here that right after a data page, we go to a completely different scene. It's a really, really good tool to just kind of break up the monotony of all of it.
Yeah, I think I can appreciate most of the data pages that we got. So some of them are a miss for me, but they hit more than they miss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do think especially if you're planning on introducing this information anyway. I think it's a better way to do this than just kind of throwing in some clunky exposition.
Yes.
I think this gets the information you want to get across in a pretty easy, digestible manner that doesn't take up too much of the page count either. Because with comics, you are kind of limited with the amount of stuff you can actually have.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. And speaking of page count, good segue. So for the next episode, now that we are done with House and Powers of X, we're going to be starting our journey into the larger world that has now been built. So for episode 7, we are planning to start off with the X-Men, also written by Jonathan Hickman. And then the second issue for that one is going to be Marauders #1. This is written by Gary Duggan, and is going to be one of the first non-Hickman ones that we're going to read.
I
And
would
because
like
these... Oh, go ahead.
just to stress, or sorry, just to stress this. It's the 2019 run of both of these. Don't get a future run.
Yes, these are all should be taken with 2019 in like brackets.
Right.
And then because these are #1s, We are only going to be still doing 2 issues per episode. So with episode 8, we are going to be doing Excalibur from 2019, written by Teenie Howard. And then we're going to be moving on to New Mutants from 2019. That is also going to start out being written by Jonathan Hickman, but it does change. Same thing with Marauders, technically. And then we are going to be moving on to episode 9 with Fallen Angels 2019, written by Brian Edward Hill. And then we are also going to be getting X-Force 2019, issue number 1, written by Benjamin Percy. After that, starting with episode 10, we are hopefully going to be moving to 3 issues per episode, since they are going to go back to a more traditional comic book format and page count. But we're kind of going to play it by ear. We'll see if 3 issues is too much. And if so, we'll kind of play with it. I am also going to be posting all of these on our social media accounts, so if you want to take a look at what issues we're going to be reading for the next couple of episodes, you can take a look there.
Yeah, and we'll be noting these on the episode description as well.
Mm-hmm. So.
All right. I actually wasn't able to organically squeeze this in, but I thought since we're ending the run here, we might as well have a final Marvel Snap corner for
okay.
There we go.
House and Powers effects.
Okay.
And I thought it would be fitting to end it with Cerebro.
Ooh, I didn't know Cerebro was in there.
Cerebro is a card, which I think is curious because most cards are characters and not devices.
Mm-hmm.
Especially considering that Krakoa is a location, I believe, which is surprising to me since Krakoa is a character. But whatever. I don't really like Cerebro all that much, actually. It's a 3-cost card with 0 power, and what it does is your highest power cards get +2 power. So it's kind of a buff that gets added to whichever cards are highest in power in your amongst all of your locations, I think. I'm not a huge fan. It kind of forces you to try to have a very flat power curve, right? Because then that's how you maximize the amount of cards that are going to get the buff.
Yeah, because everything would have to be the same highest number. Which, by the way...
That seems to be the strategy to go for.
Thanks to Sergio, I've also started playing Marvel Snap. It's really fun. I'm honestly really enjoying it. I haven't gotten the Cerebro card, but I agree that doesn't sound like a very good card unless you have a very flat power level amongst everybody. I kind of like that it's +2 for everyone and not just the one location, which makes sense. But, you know, for an item that's kind of meh.
Yeah, it has some interesting synergies. Mystique, for example, is a very similar card. Also a 3-cost card with 0 power. But on reveal, if the last card you played has an ongoing ability, which Cerebro does, this card gains it. So it's kind of riffing on the shape-shifting stuff, like being able to copy the ability, and this would double it. So if you can manage that, this would be a +4 instead of a +2.
Yeah, that's pretty good, actually. How interesting. I'm going to have to take a look for these cards.
Yeah.
So, but now that we have wrapped up our Marvel Snap podcast, if you would like to follow us for more Marvel Snap news, you can find us on Twitter at StudyOfX and also on Tumblr at StudyOfX. If you would like to send us any comments, questions, or just letting us know some information that we may not know, you can send it to studyofx@gmail.com. And also, if you're listening to this, first, thank you. And if you could leave us a positive review on the podcast service of your choice, that would really help us out. That would be awesome.
It would, yes. Thank you if you do.
Mm-hmm. And then if you want to follow any of us, you can find me at Sonics on Twitter. It is SAWNEEKS. And Sergio, where can they find you?
People can find me at Fireblend, FIREBLEND.
Awesome. Yeah. And then, Tim, where can they not find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Fireblend, FIREBLEND.
He's in his no space.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Where do your two portals go, Tim? If you had two portals that could go anywhere in your no space.
Ooh, if I have two portals to go anywhere in my no space, my first one would go to I just save some travel cost and go to. That's a good question. Where would I have a portal to?
A deeper question than one might think.
I mean, one of them already connects to the study.
Yeah,
that's true. One of them is coming here.
That has to have a study, but you got to have one just for.
Yeah, like Moria had for the cities of great gastronomical traditions.
Mm-hmm.
Culinary expertise. Ooh. It's so limiting. You know what? I'd go to give me a portal to Tokyo so I can just go to Disneyland.
Nice. Very nice.
Sure.
Sergio and I are gonna come bug you so we can go buy some Gunpla over there.
Yes, absolutely. Especially some of that, Gundam-based exclusive Gunpla.
Yeah, gotta get the good stuff.
You can only get in Japan. Yeah. Or the 7-Eleven ones. There's some wild.
There's some weird
out there.
There's some weird Gunpla. Okay, before we get more off topic, thank you again, everyone. Later, mutants.
Yeah, thank you for accompanying us on this first foray into X-Men.
Yep. See you in the next episode. See you 2 weeks from now.
All right, bye.
Bye.